One station making history every day.
Chicago, Chicago.
Now, John Cass and Lauren Cohn.
89 WQS.
Lauren Cohn, John Cass here, March 25th.
Big day.
What is this day, Lauren?
It's an important day, isn't it? For your
very
people,
important day
for people, Greeks everywhere.
It's an important day for Greeks and for Americans because without democracy, individualism,
standing up for yourself,
without all the ideals that that Hellenes have supported and given to the world, there would not be an America. And we should always never forget that. Now, I'm a columnist for the Chicago Tribune. I'm an American of Greek descent. That's how I identify myself. But I'll never forget that the blood that's in me is the same blood that was spilled when my great-grandfathers, my family got married late. The men got married late. So, like, my great-great-grandfathers fought in the War of Independence in 1821. And our guest today, right now, the director of the National Hellenic Museum, Dr. Connie Murtopoulos. Hello, Connie. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Thanks for being here.
So,
thank you for having me.
What is this day about?
Well, I think you put it very eloquently, and you almost had me in tears. But it's a very important day. It's 193 years ago, the people of Greece, or the Greek people rather, the Hellenes, decided that they had been under the Ottoman yoke long enough, 400 years, and that they needed to have an independent state and be able to rule themselves and be a sovereign people. So they rebelled, and they fought for several years. Quite a few of them by themselves, without help, until the world decided that the Greek people should be independent, and the great powers did come eventually to their help,
right,
and help secure. But the Greek people really fought very, very hard and inspired the world.
One thing I wanted to tell the people. Imagine, this is Chicago's a Roman Catholic town. Imagine the Pope of Rome, okay, surrounded by Islamic forces, dragged out of his church in his vestments on Easter Sunday, nailed upside down on the black gates of St. Peter. This happened, and forgive me, but it did. And even though I have friends friends of Turkish descent and in the Turkish community, and I understand that things change and that people want to live free, I don't think Americans can really understand it. Taking the leader of the church, of the Holy Orthodox Church, and nailing him to the gate. I've seen that gate, and I know why it's not open, Lauren. And it's never been open since that day. What happened in Greece in 1821 is that people decided they wanted to be free. They had given up. Imagine a country where the president comes and takes the firstborn. I'm the firstborn of three brothers. They'd come and take me as an infant and put me in a brigade of special forces. They would train me as a child to reject my church, my people, and they would use them, the Janissaries, to attack and subjugate my family. So I would be used to subjugate my own family. And all these things happened, and finally people said no. They said, we're going to stand up for freedom. And then what happened afterward were what happens in any war of independence. It happened in the United States, and we don't want to know the histories. It happened in the Middle East. We don't want to know the histories. It happened in Greece, and I think we do. I want to know. Because to be free means to come down from the mountains and wreak havoc on people that you've lived with for 400 years. Neighbors, some friends, people live together, just like in the Middle East now, but they wanted to be free, and the sins that they took upon themselves for freedom are also... Anyway, I have a guest. I have Connie Murtopoulos here, and I'm talking on and on.
No, it's
Tell us about
inspiring.
Tell us about the museum, Hellenic Museum on Halsted Street in Greektown, and what could we expect when we walk in there, Connie?
Before I do that, I just want to say a couple of things about, you mentioned America and Greece, and, very few people know how much the Greek fighters were inspired by the American Revolution.
Of course.
And that the leaders of the revolution actually wrote to the United States, the President, Secretary of State, and asking for their help. And the Greek national anthem, the epic, which is a huge poem of which 3 stanzas have become the national anthem, has a stanza that says how the Greeks were inspired by the land of Washington, and how the American people really rallied to the support of the Greek people then, and they sent humanitarian aid. And there were committees formed everywhere in the United States, even though the official government position under the Monroe Doctrine was not, to get involved. The American people did, and a lot of them went to fight in Greece. Daniel Webster argued the cause of Greece in the national, in Congress, and it's all part of congressional records. And African American slave from Baltimore, James Williams, went to Greece and fought for the revolution and was killed. So there is, when we talk about bonds between Greece and the United States, it's not only ancient Greece, how the U.S. has used those principles, but also, during the War of Independence, there was a lot of connection. And
in World War I and in World War II.
Well, you know your history very well, so, and you perhaps express it a lot better than I do.
No.
But about the museum, yes, you can come to the museum and see an exhibition that talks about the struggles of the Greek people for independence. It will be there for several months still. It's a small one, but it really depicts how women, children, and everyone really pitched in for this war for freedom. And finally, in 1830, they became an independent state. And today we celebrate the 192nd anniversary of the War of Independence.
And the 400 pleats in the Fustanella.
In the Greek kilt.
The 400 years of oppression.
Exactly.
Connie Murtopoulos from the Hellenic National Museum, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
I'm so honored that you came, and I can't wait to go to the museum to see you.
Yes, great. And we do have a skirt, that pleat, that skirt in the museum to come and see it.
I used to wear them as a child.
Yes, thank you very much.
Traffic and weather first on the 5s with Ryan Burrow. Lauren Cohn.
John, I had a question for you. We were having this conversation. You look back at this day. How would you assess the younger generations today? Because obviously, of our generations, when you look at the history of what happened with the Greek people, I look at today as Passover and the history of what happened with the Jews and what Passover means. And I wonder how the younger generations view in terms of when you talk about independence and freedom, if they're in touch with that, if they really understand it.
I don't know. For me and for you, these are traditions that are passed from parent to child, to grandparent to child. I think as the United States became richer, wealthier, and the government worked to break up the family, we talked earlier about not having recipes for people to know how to cook cheaply and healthy food. What also is lost are the stories. Now, you heard when we were talking earlier, I got a little emotional, and it means a lot to me. It means a lot that people don't understand it. They see some kids with the white kilts and we laugh, or they make jokes, like some of my friends, former friends, made some jokes this morning. Mm-hmm. I just think that when we break up our families in this country, we lose the stories about what the elders did. I want my sons to know what their grandfather did in World War II and what their great-great-grandfathers did in the War of Independence. I want you people listening to know, right, what your fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers did. And as we break up the family, as we live in sort of these nuclear cultures where grandma lives in Florida and we live in, New York or Chicago or L.A., you lose that sense, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're witnessing a lot of, when we look at what's going on overseas right now, in terms of the battles in the Middle East, and we're looking at the recent conflicts that are growing on the borders of Jordan, Syria, and Israel.
Right.
And we're talking about people fighting for land. Are they fighting for independence? What is everybody fighting for? I think sometimes you feel removed from it when it's not right in your backyard.
Right. And, 1821 for many of you is, centuries ago, a long time. For me, my grandfather, John, who came here in 1898 briefly, he couldn't, they wouldn't let Greeks sleep indoors then in Chicago. They had Greeks sleep in the barn, okay? He died in 1967 at the age of 98 years old. His father died at 114. I think it's all the yogurt, right? Or
right. There you go.
But what I mean is, so 2-3 generations, we're back centuries ago. Centuries. And just when I think of the patriarch surrounded, dragged out of his... I don't mean, I didn't mean any disrespect to the Pope by telling that story, but I just wanted to make it immediate. Mike in Hinsdale, you got a couple seconds, Mike.
Hi, John. I'm just very emotional about what I heard, too. My grandfather came over from Greece in the late 1800s. He was from Sparta, and he was 8 years old, came over and sold newspapers. He had an uncle in New York, fought in the First World War, and then through the Depression, must have had 25 people living in a two-flat trying to help people through the Depression.
Hey, Mike.
He was just that was a great, great man. And
Michael, could you hold on for a second? We'll get right back to you, okay? Please just hold. John Cass, Lauren Cohn, we're back after this.
89 WLS. When you want Chicago's classic hits, turn to 94.7 WLS. For traffic and weather info, tune into 890 AM WLS for traffic and weather first on the fives when you need it most.
Back, John Cass, Lauren Cohn, 25th of March, Greek Independence Day, 25 Martiu. Mike of Hinsdale asked you to hold. Tell me, Mike, why is this day important to you?
My grandparents were wonderful. My parents got divorced when we were very young, and so he and my yaya raised us from a young age. And they worked like dogs. They had a little tavern at Irving Park in Harlem. You may have even known it. You might have known about it. But they worked hard, and they still took care of us. And Papa used to take me every Sunday. We would go to the Shriners Hospital in the VA, and he would go and visit sick children and everything.
Well, it's a great day to remember our heritage and all of us. So,
I only wish he lived long enough for me to tell him all this, because I never got a chance. So,
well, you're telling him now, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks,
you,
Mike.
buddy. Lauren, I know it's an emotional day, but we have other things to deal with too.
Yeah, we'll see.